Hello everyone, my name is Hannah. Welcome to a new video. Today's video is going to be talking about all of the books that I read in June. Now, I only read 11 books. I was hoping to read a lot more this month, but I fell into a bit of a reading slump. I haven't read anything in almost 2 weeks, so that's quite unfortunate because I was hoping this was going to be my best reading month so far this year, and it was not. So anyways, without further ado, let's talk about the books that I did read in June. I do have several reading vlogs from this month where I talk about these books a little bit more in depth. So if you want to see my more in-depth thoughts on these books, I'll link those all down below. You can go watch those. But the first book that I read in June was Still Beating by Jennifer Hartman. I've had my eye on this book for a while. I know it's a dark romance, and so I was waiting until I was in like a dark romance mood. So basically the idea behind this book is that this woman, Cora, gets kidnapped with her sister's fiance, and they hate each other. And the serial killer that kidnapped them kind of manipulates their emotions quite a bit and forces them to fall in love with each other. And like his MO is that once he gets these people who hate each other to fall in love, then he kills them. So it's like more traumatic for them. And like that's the whole idea behind this book, is that like they are forced to trauma bond and fall in love, and they're put in this really terrible situation. And the top of this book says every love story is worth writing, no matter how messy it might be. And it definitely gets messy because obviously it's her sister's fiance, like who she's been dating for like 15 years. And so they have like all this history and stuff. And then of course all of the like PTSD from being kidnapped and everything that went along with that. So it's definitely very dark, but I really loved the writing in this one. I really liked Cora and Dean together, but like there were so many good quotes. I wasn't initially planning to annotate this one as I was reading it, but once I got like, I don't know, 50 pages in, I was like, no, I can tell, like, I'm gonna want to annotate this because it was really, really good. I really enjoyed it. Definitely very dark, and it doesn't really shy away from that. So make sure you check the trigger warnings for this before you read this book. But I really loved it. I loved Cora and Dean, and I loved how messy their relationship was and all of the stuff that they had to work through and like their trauma bond. I'm giving this one 4.5 stars. Next up, I read Adelaide by Genevieve Wheeler. This book gets compared to Normal People a lot and like Alone with You in the Ether. And I agree with that comparison because it's one of those stories about like people with mental illnesses and like how that affects their relationships and stuff. I did really like the writing in this one. Adelaide gets into this relationship with this guy named Rory, and their relationship in itself is not like the most healthy, and so it's like them dealing with it. It's more about Adelaide and how the relationship affects her more than it's about the relationship, if that makes sense. But I did really enjoy the writing in this one, and I'm giving it 4 stars. Then I read Meet Me at the Lake by Carly Fortune. This is the second novel I've read by Carly Fortune. She wrote Every Summer After, which I read last year, and I did really enjoy it. I really like her writing, and I still really like her writing, but the story in this one just was not for me. It's kind of like a second chance romance a little bit, like more like a missed connection. The two people in this book, I don't even remember their names, Fern and Will. They have one day together a decade ago, and apparently form this like very strong bond, and they agree to meet 1 year later, and then the guy doesn't show up 1 year later, and it apparently crushes Fern. And then 9 years after that, they are like forced to work together on this like inn that her family owns, and she's like absolutely heartbroken by it, and you like find out like why he didn't show up and all this stuff. And the believability in this was not there. Like, they spent one day together, not even like a full 24 hours, like one afternoon, evening, like maybe 9 hours, 12 tops. And they were both in relationships at the time, and apparently formed this like strong bond, which like I'm not saying you can't like connect with somebody in that short a period of time, but like for her to still be like holding a flame for this guy 10 years later, and like was so upset and so heartbroken that he didn't show up a year later. Like, girl, do you even know his middle name? Like I don't know. I just like couldn't get, I couldn't believe it. Like I was like, you guys, I mean, you're the definition of insta-love, because like there was nothing. And the guy's reason for not showing up was seriously so stupid that I really was not enjoying my time reading this. It was just annoying and frustrating, honestly, because I couldn't believe it. So I gave this one 2 stars. Then I read In the Lives of Puppets by TJ Klune, so highly anticipated reading this one. I love TJ Klune, I love his writing. This synopsis did not sound like a book I would have picked up if it wasn't written by TJ Klune. Like if I didn't already know that I liked his writing, I probably would have never picked this up. But I'm so glad that I did because I ended up really liking this one. Basically, it is about this little found family. It's one human and a bunch of robots that live in the forest. And there's a lot of discussion about like bonds with people, and like found family is a really, really big part of this book, as well as like what makes humanity kind of worth saving and like what makes a person human. So Victor is the human, and one day he finds a robot that he like decides to kind of like fix up and get to come back to life, and that sets a whole thing into motion. And his dad, like the dad robot, ends up getting captured, and so they have to go on this journey to try to save Victor's dad. I just really like how TJ Klune writes found family, especially like he's done it in his 2 other books that I've read by him, and I just really appreciate it. It's very wholesome how he writes it and like adds humor to it, and especially like deeper topics. He's able to do it in such like I don't know how to explain it, in such a way that it's just like heartwarming. His books are always very wholesome, and my favorite character in this book was Nurse Ratched. If you've read this, she is hilarious. Her character is described as being pleasantly sadistic, I think. Yeah, pleasantly sadistic. She is so funny and like snarky and sarcastic. She just had so many like hilarious moments where I was like laughing out loud because it was just so funny. And then one of the other robots is like a perpetually nervous vacuum, and he's just so cute. But yeah, I had the best time reading this. Definitely will pick up anything TJ Klune publishes in the future, and I'm gonna try to get to his backlist. So I gave this one 4.5 stars. The only reason it didn't get a full 5 for me was because I wanted something a little bit different from the ending. I still liked the ending, but I wanted something just a little bit different. So 4.5. Next up is Lore Olympus Volume 4 by Rachel Smythe. This one came out in June, and I was anticipating it because I binged the first 3 volumes in May, and this did not disappoint. I had so much fun reading this. It's a Hades and Persephone retelling. I love the art style. I just love the colors that are used. It's so beautiful, and Hades and Persephone are so adorable, and I like how this like retelling is being retold. Like I like the drama of Olympus and like between the gods and stuff. I like how it's all being portrayed. So I had no complaints with this. I gave it 5 stars, and like 5 stars for a graphic novel is different than 5 stars for a novel, because like overall, which of these did I enjoy more? Probably this one, but this one gets a 5 stars. I don't know. I just didn't have anything to complain about in this one. So I feel like I rate graphic novels a little bit differently, but yeah, I absolutely loved it. 5 stars. Then I read Astrid Parker Doesn't Fail by Ashley Herring Blake. So this is a sapphic romance. It's the second book in the Bright Falls series, the first one being Delilah Green Doesn't Care. This is following Astrid, who is Delilah's sister. You can read these books as standalones, but I would still recommend reading Delilah Green Doesn't Care before reading this one, because you see a lot more of Astrid's like character development, like where she started and why she is the way that she is, by reading that book first. So I felt like I understood her a lot more than if I was to just pick this one up as a standalone. So I did really enjoy this one though. It's like forced proximity. They have like a bad first impression on each other, and they're forced to work together on this project, and they end up developing feelings for each other, and there's like a TV show like HGTV involved, so like there's the pressure of the cameras on them and all that. It was a really fun time. I gave it 4 stars. I really like this one. And I'm excited for the 3rd book, which is following Iris. Next up, I read Reckless by Elsie Silver. So this is the 4th book in the Chestnut Springs series, which I absolutely love that series. And I was highly anticipating this book after reading Powerless, because they have a moment, these two, Theo and Winter, have a moment in that book that I was like, absolutely exquisite. I was a little nervous about this one because the trope in this is like secret baby. Basically, Theo is like this young, cocky, like golden retriever love interest, and Winter is supposed to be like the ice queen. Again, I feel like you could read this one as a standalone, but it makes more sense if you've read the other books in the series, specifically the first book, Flawless. I feel like if you go into this one, you should at least read Flawless first, because that one explains a lot more. Like there's a situation that happens in here where it's like, it doesn't really make a lot of sense unless you know the backstory from Flawless. So I would recommend still reading those because they're still good. But yeah, I think Theo is my favorite guy of the Chestnut Springs series. I just loved him so much. I will say though, there's a time jump in here where it's like 18 months or something like that, and a lot of like telling versus showing happens in that. Like Winter and her sister Summer, who's the main character from Flawless, the first book, they have like a strained relationship, and it's like in that time jump they fix things, and it's just, I would have liked to have seen them fix it versus just being like, oh, now we're all good, like, okay. And then also Winter, like she's pitched as this like ice queen throughout the series, and then the time jump happens and she's like, oh, I'm trying to be a better person now, so I'm not going to be the ice queen anymore. And it's like, oh, I was looking forward to that. So those were my main complaints about this book. I still gave it 4 stars because I still really liked it, and I love Elsie Silver's writing. She's a new favorite author for me. But yeah, just those couple things where I was like, you can't just say, okay, time jumped and like now these things are all of a sudden all good and everything's fine. So other than that though, really enjoyed it, 4 stars. Then I reread Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. So I haven't reread this series in about 3 years now. So I wanted to go through and annotate in it, and I had so much fun rereading this and annotating in it. I really like how this, like my key page turned out. But yeah, I had so much fun rereading this, and it's just so nostalgic and so whimsical and magical, and I just love this series so much. So yeah, this was a 5 stars. I just love it so much. Then I read Tom Felton's memoir, Beyond the Wand. I listened to the audiobook for this one because it's narrated by Tom Felton, and it gives you a lot of insight into like what it was like being a child actor and being on the set of Harry Potter, and like kind of the pressures that go along with that. But it was also really fun just to like hear him talk about the actors that I really loved watching perform, and like certain scenes and stuff that he was talking about, and just like a bit more insight into his life and like everything beyond Harry Potter, beyond the wand. So that was really interesting, and I really enjoyed it. I really liked that he narrated the audiobook because I think he did a great job narrating, and it was really fun and really engaging. But I'm not going to give this a rating because I do think it's a little bit weird to rate someone's like memoir, so I'm not going to do that, but I did really enjoy it. The next book I read was kind of a spontaneous reread, and that was The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. I read this several years ago, and I know I gave it 4 stars, but this time around I'm giving it 5 stars. I just think Madeline Miller's writing is really beautiful. Again, I went through and annotated in it, and I had a really good time with it. The audiobook is amazing, and I just think the story itself is really beautiful, and the writing is just absolutely stunning, and so I want to read more from Madeline Miller. But yeah, I really, really loved this one. And then finally, the book that I'm going to 100% blame my reading slump on is The Curse of Ophelia by Nicole Platania. This was a buddy read with Rachel, and we should have known that it was going to be doomed from the start. Our buddy reads almost never go well. And if you've been around for a while, we did a buddy read last June, and we had hyped this book up, City of Gods and Monsters. I did a whole reading vlog about it, and we were like, this is going to be one of the best books of the year. It's going to be 5 stars. It's going to be so stunning. We're so excited for it. And we're like, we had no idea what was coming to us, and it ended up being one of the most disappointing reads of last year. And so fast forward a year, here we are again in June doing a fantasy romance buddy read, and we both ended up not liking this one. I thought the dialogue in this was super cheesy. I thought that things were just way too easy for the main character. There was like this whole thing where you build up to these like trials kind of, and they were so easy and so underwhelming, and I was like, seriously, that's what we've been building up for this entire time? It was such a letdown. And it's pitched as a fantasy romance, but you start the book knowing that the main character is in love with this guy who's gone missing for 2 years, and you get some flashbacks of like their relationship when they were younger before he went missing, but it's like I wanted like a buildup of a romance, not like here she is in love with this guy. I don't know, maybe that'll be explored more in the next books in the series, because I think it's supposed to be a 5-book series. However, I will not be continuing it. I didn't enjoy it. I thought that the ending was super predictable and kind of boring, because I was like, there's just like no stakes. I just really didn't enjoy this one, and I didn't like the writing, so I won't be continuing on. I gave this one 2 stars, and I haven't really read anything since finishing that, so I blame this book for my reading slump. So now Rachel and I are just going to make a mental note that we can't buddy read anything in June because it's cursed. But yeah, those are all of the books that I read in June. So I had some really good ones. I had some fun rereads, and then I also had some duds, some 2 stars. So hopefully July will be better. Hopefully I'll get out of this reading slump, but who knows? If you made it to the end of this video, you can let's leave the pink flower emoji, one of the pink flowers, down in the comments down below to let me know that you made it to the end of this video. I will also leave my Goodreads and my Instagram link down below if you want to follow me on there to get more bookish content from me. And don't forget to click like and subscribe down below to help support me and my channel. I'd really appreciate it. And thank you again so much for watching this video. I will see you all in my next one. Bye.